What's up, everybody? Following Belal Muhammad's dominant performance over Leon Edwards at UFC 304 to win the welterweight title, I think that it is becoming more and more evident and clear that there is a real possibility Belal could become the greatest welterweight of all time. Now, in this video, I'm not just going to sit here and just make that claim and not back it up. I'm going to explain to you how I think Belal, what he has to do in order to become the GOAT at welterweight, because it's not enough to just win the title, right? You got to do a little bit more to get there, but I'm going to explain why I think there's a real possibility that he becomes the welterweight GOAT and what he's going to have to do to get there. Because following a performance like what Belal put on at UFC 304, guys, call it what it is, man. I don't think we have ever seen a contender go into a title fight and single-handedly dominate the champion the way that we saw Belal go in there and just absolutely dominate Leon Edwards. Because watching this fight back, as I did the other day, Belal absolutely dominated Leon Edwards. There was really nothing close about this fight. Leon, towards the end of the fight, landed a few elbows here and there. He landed some good kicks to the body. But overall, the game plan, the strategic intelligence that Belal showed in this matchup against Leon Edwards, it just can't go unrecognized. I cannot stress enough that I even broke down a video coming into this fight, the first meeting, and I said, look, if Belal wants to win this fight, it's going to come off of pace, pressure, and relentless forward movement. And that is exactly what he did. He was going to have to keep Leon guessing. Utilize the hands, utilize the takedowns, keep him guessing. Belal could not have implemented a more perfect game plan to go in there and beat Leon Edwards. But now that's kind of in the past, right? I don't think Leon Edwards is getting a rematch. I don't think that, quite frankly, he deserves one. If you just get, completely ran over in a title defense, I just don't think that it warrants an immediate rematch. It's not like there's a trilogy at stake here, because the first time it was an eye poke. There was no win per se, even though I thought Leon won the first round in that matchup. There was a lot of circumstances. Belal came in, on short notice. And so, there wasn't a clear win, where if Leon clearly won, actually finished Belal or won a decision, I could see where we could potentially get a trilogy. I don't think we get a trilogy. So what does that leave us with? Well, it leaves us with a welterweight division that has a lot of promising young guys inside the weight class. However, when I'm looking stylistically around the division right now, I'm looking at names like a Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm looking at an Ian Gary. I'm looking at a JDM Jack Della Maddalena. I don't see anybody that beats Belal Muhammad right now. I don't see anybody that beats Belal right now. And the only guy that I could see an argument for, in my opinion, you could make an argument for anybody beating Belal. The best chance, if you said, Jake, you have to throw somebody in there who has the best shot to beat him, I would have to say Shavkat Rakhmonov. Because it's a guy who has good power on the feet, good striking. He has a submission threat. He has good wrestling of his own, good takedowns. The problem I have is what we saw from Belal at UFC 304, that game plan. I don't see anybody at 170 that's going to beat him. I really don't think anybody at 170 is going to beat Belal right now. I'm serious, guys. When I'm watching that fight back and I'm watching it and I'm breaking it down and I'm not listening to the commentary and I'm just really zoning in on what I'm watching, it was a masterful game plan that was executed by Belal Muhammad. The pressure, the boxing. Obviously, no, he's not Canelo in there, right? I know his coach is trying to build him up, and I get it, saying that he's like Canelo in there. There's no doubt about it that the striking of Belal Muhammad has improved. His hands are fast. His boxing has very much improved. But for me, it's the pace, it's the pressure, it's the cardio, it's the threat of just, there's so much going on when you fight Belal to where, you have to worry about a little bit of the boxing, because we saw him land some good shots on Leon Edwards to where he gained the respect of Leon on the feet. Then he backs you up. He starts letting the combinations fly. Now you're trying to defend, and then he's ducking underneath. He's taking you down. He's taking your back. He's putting you in positions to where you are constantly having to work. What does that remind me of? It reminds me a lot of a Khabib Nurmagomedov-like style. Now, I will say this. I don't think Belal has the same finishing ability as a guy like Khabib. So if there's anywhere that I could see a window of improvement for Belal, while he has made, tremendous strides in terms of the striking and just the overall fighting, the submission threat, I think, is something that if Belal could add to his game, it would make him nearly impossible to beat at this point. So if Belal Muhammad can go out there, work on his kind of finishing ability. And what I mean by that is winning a fight is what matters. Whether you win it by decision, finish, whatever, a win is a win. But if Belal can, what I'm saying is if he can add a real submission threat into the game, if he can really start sitting on some of these shots and land shots that hurt people like we saw against Sean Brady, I don't know how anybody at 170 beats Belal, man. I got to be honest. I don't know how anybody at 170 beats Belal. And when I'm looking around the division, who's going to beat him? I don't think it's going to be Colby Covington, because Colby, he relies on pace and pressure, which I don't think that he has an advantage over Belal in that, because I think Belal has more power than he does. I think that Belal is actually a little bit more technical on the feet than Colby does. I think he has more pop in his hands than Colby does. He's stronger than Colby, so I don't know how Colby would beat him, right? So there's that kind of narrative because of the pace and pressure, if you want to go that route. Then you got Kamaru Usman, who, yes, I could potentially see Kamaru giving him some problems, because Kamaru does have good takedown defense, even though Hamzat was able to put him in some bad positions. That was up a weight class. However, you know, Usman does have good power in his hands, but he's very basic on the feet. And I think that the pace and pressure of Belal Muhammad would be too much. So I see him beating Usman. We look around at JDM. I don't think JDM can stop the pace, the pressure, and the takedowns. I don't think, you know, if you look at Ian Gary, I don't see how Ian Gary beats him. I mean, I think Belal Muhammad walks him down, utilizes the boxing, shoots for takedowns, wears on Ian Gary, tires him out to where he just grinds him out to a decision, a dominant decision. And then you're looking at Shavkat Rakhmonov, who I think, yes, I do think that he is probably the biggest threat to Belal at this point. But I don't think that Shavkat's going to be able to beat him. I don't think he's going to be able to beat him. And I understand that Shavkat's out there, you know, putting on an impressive performance against Jeff Neal. I understand he's out there putting a impressive performance against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But guys, what we saw at UFC 304 from Belal is one of the most dominant styles of fighting that we have seen at 170 in quite some time. I mean, I know that people are looking at Kamaru Usman as one of the greatest of all time. We look at GSP as one of the greatest 170-pound guys of all time. And I watched that fight back. And what I had said Belal needed to improve on and needed to show in order for him to be able to go out there and do what he did to Leon Edwards, he did all those things. He came in, the striking improved, the pace, the pressure, the grappling improved, the way that he was just able to keep you guessing. It's a problem. It's not going to let anybody just sit there and feel comfortable striking the whole time, because he'll level change. And then if you're standing there striking, he'll level change. If you're worried about the level change, then he'll land some good shots on you. He has developed a style that is absolutely problematic for every single guy at 170 pounds inside the UFC right now. Now, my only thing is, Belal is, I believe, 36 years of age. So the clock is ticking a little bit. I know that, you know, he spent some time away, you know, kind of waiting for a title shot. And I had been on the record saying numerous times, Belal should be next in line for a title shot. I thought that he should have been offered the opportunity against Leon long before. He shouldn't have had to fight for it. The guy was on a long win streak, and the win streak has continued. But he is on pace, if he can stay active as a champion, to go in there and not only, you know, take out these young contenders, but I think the one that would mean the most for his legacy, you know, I tweeted out and I said, look, I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC decides to book Kamaru Usman versus Belal Muhammad at some point. And people are like, oh, you're an idiot. Why would you say that? Because if I'm Belal, I'm confident that I'm going to beat Kamaru Usman, and that means more for the legacy, in my opinion, than some of these other matchups. Now, do I think that Kamaru just should skip the line and just I mean, we've seen crazier things at this point. I mean, we've seen guys sit on the sidelines, win one fight against guys that aren't even in the UFC anymore, and walk into a title shot. So we have seen that. So it's not out of the, you know, realm of possibility, or it's not impossible that we see Kamaru slide in there and get a possible title shot. But if Belal can beat these contenders and beat Kamaru Usman, I think there's a real shot that we are looking at a possible GOAT of the welterweight division at some point. And possibly, you know, it's not to say that, you know, if he can stack up a bunch of wins and continue this win streak, that we're looking at him as one of the best fighters of all time inside the UFC. Like, guys, look, when you go back and you watch UFC 304 and you watch what Belal has done in some of these other fights, if he is able to go out there and do that to the rest of the guys inside the division, the up-and-comers and some of the veterans that have been around that may work their way back into a title shot, and he beats all of them, I would say it's one of the most impressive resumes that you could have to bring to the table that would, I think, solidify him as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, welterweight of all time. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video, comment your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. I would appreciate it. See you next time.